We at the Disability and Access Center always want to know more about people who patronize our office, and we want them to know more about us. And one way to know more about anyone is to know where they've come from.
The services part really evolved as a necessity, I think. You know, we were responsible for parking with the ASB back then instead of the Student Government Association. Early on, it was all about learning what the problems were, not necessarily in terms of all the services that we had to you know, 504 was brand new. You know, there was no connection very much between all that. We did a lot of going with the recreation department to their conferences to learn about music and hearing impaired and dancing, you know, but we were really interested in the entire life and understanding how people approached situations and how we could share that information.
Our location helped us a lot. We were in the middle of the state, of Tennessee, helped us. I think a flat campus helped us a lot in getting the populations of people we had. And then I would say another thing is that the university became very sensitive to the needs of persons with disabilities earlier than other universities did, and which surprised me when I came here as a student of how welcoming and how they were. And I think as a result of that, what Molly Whaley was doing with the therapeutic recreation program over in the Hypers department, because a lot of our students at the Tennessee School for the Blind, I think she took juniors and seniors during the summers and brought them here so that her students, when she was teaching therapeutic recreation, could have students actually to work with, so as part of the intern, and I think that helped. And then I think another big thing that sort of came along there was, people kept coming up with ideas, and about, I want to say like late 70s, early 80s, I believe Vicki, Ivan, we put together a grant that allowed us to hire some students, and that's when Barton and I and the wheelchair users, when our job was to put together down in the, downstairs in the KUC, I think you were the GA supervising us, to put together, beginning to put together of the need of a disability services program, a handicapped student services program, we called it in those days. And we started when we worked that job, I want to say was a 30-hour-a-week job or something. We got paid through the employment office, and that's when we kind of started to pull things together. And the two groups of students, well, primarily MTSU was known for, was individuals who were blind or visually impaired, and individuals who were with physical disabilities, wheelchair users. Those were our two populations, and that got us off and running.
It was kind of a perfect storm in the 70s because of the new laws that were coming down. But we were very fortunate here at MTSU that we had, like we were saying, Charlie Pigg, the people in admissions. There were some people in admissions office. There was somebody there that was sympathetic about it and empathetic and wanted to do something regardless that we didn't really have an office or anybody overseeing it. Sometimes we'd just go to high schools, people started calling the admissions office, and the admissions office would call us and say, hey, there's a paraplegic over here in Gallatin High School, and he's thinking about coming to MTSU. Can you go over and talk to him? And so it really just started as really grassroots. You know, we didn't have a big plan there at the beginning. That's what y'all were working on, but it was just kind of, we hear this opportunity, let's take it. You know, that'll help us a little bit. You know, so it really did start as a grassroots.
It wasn't just an office providing a service. It was a partnership where we were working together to discover what we needed to do for people that were going to come later on in terms of services. Tom Ritter, people may not remember who his brother was, you know, in terms of actor, all of those particular types of things, but making those connections and having the opportunity to make those connections was so important to MTSU. And when people thought of things, they said, well, let's go to MTSU and let's see what MTSU is doing and what MTSU.
Back in those days, you couldn't go on Pipeline and do your class schedule.
No.
You had to go to department to get a class card, and then that's how you got into a class. Well, obviously, that was very difficult for people with disabilities. So he allowed the people working with
Early registration.
Yeah,
like-
priority, the famed priority registration.
Right, and so, I mean, and that was a big deal back then,
Yeah.
because at one point, that was not the case. They had to go get the cards just like everybody else, and it was very difficult. So we had a lot of people helping out, and coming up with great ideas. I thought, what a great idea, pull cards for early, and that would be helpful. There was no going back after that. Because at that point, there were just so many people with disabilities looking at MTSU. It was like, well, there's no way we can stop having a place where they can come for service. I mean, you just couldn't say, okay, well, the graduate assistantships went out, so good luck, everybody.
Yeah, I think what ended up happening is that after the number got up around 100 to 150 or whatever,
Yes.
it became
700.
impossible to serve. I think that some discussions, we had this I guess they said the MTSU Committee on Disability Issues, I think we call it now, but I think in those days it was called the Handicap Student Services Committee. It was made up of faculty, staff, and students were on the committee. And that committee, I think, was the impetus of starting beginning of a full-time director for the program. And they kept talking to one of the presidents, and then I guess President Ingram maybe, who had come here, who had been at the as the Department of Human Services, I believe, as the director of there, and he had come here as the president of the university, so he had been used to working with that, and I think people, Dr. Whaley, Molly Whaley, and people just kept talking to him, and finally convinced him to look at when the grant, I think, ran out, and I think too, I also know now that a lot of other universities were being told to do things, and they would started complaining. So, well, if you got all the paid services at the programs at Middle Tennessee State, it's going to be hard for us to get other students to. How are we going to get students with disabilities to come to our universities, and how are we going to get this working? And so, what ended up happening is that then we lost those the graduates at those programs like that, and then. But I was glad our university was in a position then to go and look at hiring a full-time person. And I finally applied when I found out that two of you didn't apply. So then I said, I got a shot. I got a shot to do this.
Dr. LaLance asked me, are you going to apply? And I said, well, I've gone all these years to be a teacher. I want to go out and teach.
I just assumed that you would. I said, Nancy is or Vicki, I assumed that either one of you would do this.
I wasn't at MTSU. At that particular point in time.
Yeah.
It got to be very hectic because they would come in and everybody had issues, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, so let's tackle one at a time. But I think it was good we had a group of students who were willing to say, yeah, I'll get out there and we'll be involved in student government, we'll be involved in this, and then we start our own organization, So I think it was good we had students that were willing to do that, and to me, they were the real trailblazers.
Well, having been one of those students, I think I have to give credit to our university staff. They were, the one thing that impressed me about the university always, and even till today, that we really valued students. Students have always had input here, and I think that was one thing that was the vice presidents for student affairs that we've always hired, always included students, the housing and residence life folks were always there, and then as I said, this relationship we had with the physical education departments over in the hypers in that area, that always was good, and which actually was because I went back and said, why did I choose MTSU over other places? Because students would come back, who was ahead of me at the Tennessee School for the Blind, and come back to School for the Blind. So I went to MTSU this summer for this recreation program, and this was it. So all of us, if somebody told you was there, so you ended up coming here, and by coming here, it forced in some ways the university to step up and do more things than they would have been doing that other universities didn't do, that we did here, and it forced that because we had the students. Had we not had the students here come here, we couldn't. There was not been the impetus to do some of the things that we ended up doing. But at the same time, it wasn't just the staff also were a willing staff. For some reason, we've always been a university that hired a good staff of people who cared about, who put students, what I call to put students first. And that relationship was what got us all working together.
I can remember all of us being so excited that they developed something called Velcro, which allowed people to to dress themselves.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
had never been able to do that.
Yeah.
And we celebrated those times of
exactly.
those types of
Absolutely.
development.
Yeah.
There was anything that we could do that was a success, and if somebody could find something that worked and we could implement it, and I mean, how difficult is Velcro now?
Yeah.
All of those particular types of things. Students were, I read about, I heard about, I saw, and we would try our best, to provide those services as best we could.
Yeah.
And students were not only the receivers or the benefactors of those particular things, but they were also the implementers.
Yeah. I think you all helped us develop a plan for how we were going to explain to professors what our needs were.
Right.
And I think that helped a lot as well. And I think that because we had already, what I call field tested it.
And the legacy would come whenever your office, was able to be developed, and have you come as the first director.
Well, I think that, and that came because, when the number got up, a lot of people were always working behind the scenes trying to convince the administration, the presidents, I should say, that we need to hire somebody full time to do this, and that this is really a full time job here now, and we're getting enough students here now that we can do this, and so I think but I think had we not gone that route first, who knows when we would have gotten somebody.
One of the great things that I got out of this is lifelong friends.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, and I still know still know those individuals and those people, and some of those individuals became just outstanding people.
We want to thank Vicki, Nancy, and John for their contributions.